We are joined by Douglas Murray, one of our friends and colleagues from across the pond. He is the founder and director of the Center for Social Cohesion, a superb organization monitoring and warning about the extent to which Sharia is being insinuated into his own country and more generally the threat that it poses to all of us. Fresh from an appearance on Fox News this morning, we have with us Douglas Murray. Thank you so much for joining us here at Secure Freedom Radio, Douglas, and holidays greetings to you.
It's a great place to be with you as always, Frank, and to you.
Thank you very much. Listen, much to discuss about the UK. Tell us, Douglas, most immediately about this bomber. I think you've described him as an export, Christmas time export from the UK that turned up in Stockholm, blowing himself to pieces and killing a few other folks. What is this a sample of, in your estimation, that we all should be concerned about?
Well, I mean, here is an absolutely extraordinary case, but one that has become typical. This is an Iraqi-born man who ended up coming to Britain to study at university, in a university in Luton, in England, and he got radicalized. He got sent into radical Islam whilst at university in Luton. And last Saturday, the people of Stockholm had to pay for it because he became a suicide bomber in Stockholm whilst people were trying to do their Christmas shopping. This is an absolutely extraordinary example, except for the fact, as I say, that it's becoming something of a tradition. You remember that last year it was Omar Farouk Abdul Muttalib, radicalized whilst at the University College in London, who tried to bring down an airplane over Detroit. In 2001, it was Richard Reed, a British citizen, who tried to blow up a plane on its way to America with a device in his shoes. The Christmas day before, in 2000, a British man went to Kashmir and blew himself up and 9 other people in a suicide bombing in Kashmir. This is a really a bizarre thing. If you said to British people 2 decades ago that one of Britain's most famous Christmas exports would be suicide bombers, they'd have laughed at you. But when it happens, there's absolutely nothing amusing about it. It's a tragedy, and one that keeps on repeating itself.
Well, then let's talk a little bit about why this is happening in your estimation, Douglas Murray. What is it about what's going on in the United Kingdom at the moment that is giving rise to this kind of export product, if you will, or more to the point, the kind of climate in which these folks are being, I'm not sure whether radicalized is the term best suited to the phenomenon, but at least brought to the violent acts of jihad in which they're engaging?
Well, you know, several things. I mean, I was speaking at a conference yesterday, a panel in front of security experts, counterterrorism practitioners in the UK, and they kept asking, what is it we could do in terms of ABC? And I said, you know, you come up with all sorts of complex solutions, and in fact, it's quite simple. You need to enforce the laws of the land as they currently stand. It is already illegal to recruit for terror groups in this country. Yet there are, for instance, Hamas operatives running around the UK raising money as we speak. We know their names, but they don't get rounded up. They don't get arrested. They don't get deported. When you have a climate in a country where you permit the impermissible, then it's no surprise people take a lesson from it. It's no surprise that they think, well, if those guys can do it, so can I, because there is no punishment for doing things that should be punishable. It's a combination of that, and secondly, and we can't avoid this, it is the institutionalization of political correctness. It is political correctness at its ultimate endpoint, which is suicidalism. People who would rather be killed or would rather see others killed than to be accused themselves of being, for instance, Islamophobic, the big new bogey word of our era. It's Islamophobic to criticize jihadi preachers going around campuses in the UK. It's Islamophobic to point out that they're calling for the murder of minorities. It's Islamophobic to point out that you shouldn't have preachers going going around teaching young people that Britain and America are the great and little Satans. This is the problem, and it's a fatal one.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely suicidal, as you say, to engage in it. We're speaking with Douglas Murray, the founder and director of the Center for Social Cohesion. Douglas, you've done a book, and I don't have the title of it at hand recently, out of the center, that is really important in terms of documenting much of what you've just described. Remind me of its title.
It's called Islamist Terrorism, the British Connections, and it's the first study of its kind, a 10-year-long survey of all of the Islamists who've been convicted of terrorism-related offences in the UK. And so it's the first time we've been able to show and document and analyse the facts about these people. And, you know, it backs up what some of us, Frank, you, myself, and others have been saying for years. In fact, you can profile a terrorist, and if you can profile a terrorist, you should profile a terrorist. You know, not only is it clear in Britain that the vast majority are young males of Pakistani origin. That is the typical profile. And furthermore, some of the myths that we've been told by the left and others for years are busted by it. Terrorists in Britain are not actually, disproportionately, disadvantaged poor people who go into Islamist terrorism because they have no other job opportunities. In fact, they're disproportionately well educated. They're people who've been to university, as we see again the other day. These people have enjoyed all of the advantages that a wealthy liberal state can give, and they've turned against it. And if people don't learn from that, then I don't know what they will learn from.
Well, this is often called the underlying causes explanation for this jihadism, and it's what we reflexively revert to, particularly here in the United States, but I think in the United Kingdom as well, Douglas Murray, when we don't want to confront what is actually animating them, which is what they call Sharia and their program for bringing it to all of us. Douglas, I want to just touch on one thing and then give you a closing comment. Quickly, tell us about the U.S. ambassador's visit to the East London Mosque and how that fits into this sort of political correctness and fear of Islamophobia and so on.
Well, this is a very interesting example because, yes, just a couple of weeks ago, the American ambassador in London visited the East London Mosque. East London Mosque and its twin, the London Muslim Centre, have for years been one of the hubs in the UK of Islamist ideology, specifically of a branch of it from the Indian subcontinent, represented by the extreme political party Jamaat-e-Islami. And the American ambassador ended up the other week at this noble visit to this institution. I mean, it's not surprising in some ways. The Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, has been there. The Prince of Wales has been there. You know, this is how you dignify extreme Islamist movements, by going and making nice with them. And I have to say, I mean, I expect it, sadly, from our degraded politicians here. But to have the American ambassador blessing this institution as well is astonishing. You know, again, you don't have to get involved in the theological arguments within Islam. You don't have to get involved in any of this. All you have to do is not go and dignify fascist movements of whatever kind. And you don't go to institutions that preach a fascist ideology and dignify them and give them the boost of thinking they might be on the right track.
Yeah, well, and signaling to all of the others in the Muslim community that they are the go-to people, they are the leaders. This is very briefly. This is in fact not, I'm afraid, political correctness. This is submission, and it is an invitation under their threat doctrine to redouble the efforts to force us to feel subdued. We have exactly a minute left with you, Douglas Murray of the Center for Social Cohesion. Let me just ask you very quickly, very succinctly, in your inimitable British way, tell us why what is going on in Britain that you've just described is a warning to us as well.
Well, because we in Britain have fallen for the narrative that America is also now falling for. And it is this. It is the idea that once you are attacked by radical Islam, you must come up with a solution. You must. It's true. I think you should kill your enemies and get rid of them and clear them out of the public space. But we have fallen for this, and you are now falling for it too, that the answer to radical Islam is another type of Islam. The answer to a guy flying a plane into a twin tower is to build a mosque beside it. This is the big lie of our time. The answer to radical Islam is free and open societies defending themselves and their democratic principles. And instead we're falling for the idea that we should fall into defending and claiming a new type of Islam.
Accommodating it. We have to leave it at that. Douglas, thank you. Bless you, and keep up the great work, my friend. Come back soon. Merry Christmas. Next up, Eric Stackelberg.